God! What in the hell?
It's hurting my head.
Shush up, Rick. Shush up, Nick.
He called him.
Almost call me Rick.
Yes.
What the?
So we go from reacting to the Odd Ones Out, animating himself talking about an animated kids show, to let's just say one of the more like I'm gonna get it's one of the more like, I don't know, it just goes to show you like in terms of the overall like just fragility of trying to like hold back children's imaginations. It's a whole thing. So my mom was a teacher, and she was an art teacher, and she had to deal with some very interesting things that the kids would do. For instance, some of the kids had a very strong apprehension for drawing units, male units, all over their paper.
You mean a fascination with?
Huh?
Do you mean a fascination with?
What did I say?
Apprehension.
Well, not
So you mean
they
enjoyed drawing units?
Not apprehension. Fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain's a bit fried right now.
Oh,
There we go. Back to normal.
I was thinking, wait, were they doing anatomy drawings?
No.
Did she teach younger kids?
No. No. They just did it. They just did it because they felt like it. And my mom had to deal with that and had to send a bunch of kids to the office. And then my mom would often get the question, well, where did they learn how to draw that? It's like, my mom's like, I don't know. I don't teach that. Because my mom was never about stuff like that.
Right.
She wanted to teach kids how to draw 3D spacing and draw shadows and draw depth to their pictures, shading, stuff like that, how to command color and all that. And
instead she had kids that like to draw big triumphant veiny motherfuckers.
No, it was sometimes
Super
that.
bad.
It was sometimes it was sometimes that, but it was mostly just the two circles and and that's it. And she would often send them to the office. They'd come back, and eventually they stopped. But then, of course, she had other stuff to deal with. Kids who would draw very edgy stuff. For instance, there was one kid who literally drew himself and hauling the school bus.
Jesus.
What?
Yes, I remember him doing that. And I remember just thinking to myself, that's kind of messed up, dude.
It's kind of terrifying.
Yes. And I just thought to myself, wow, that's... And then mom did the thing where she basically talked to him, just why did you draw this? And he's just... And he basically just says, well, I heard people talking about it and, what they would do. So I just thought what I would do. And it's but... would you actually want to do this to people? Would you why would you want to hurt people? He's like, oh, I don't want to hurt people. I just thought it was interesting. And I remember mom just sitting with him, just being okay, here, let's talk over here, and took him over to the side and said, it's okay if you want to draw things that are a little bit funny, but don't resort to stuff like that where you're drawing yourself harming other people, because that's not right. Yeah. Because it doesn't really, because number one, people will see that and they'll think that you actually want to do stuff like that.
Yeah. And
it's just, and also it's not good to wish harm on others like that. And
me and my buddy probably risked getting talked to in high school, but luckily nobody ever got a hold of our books. But we drew violent comics, but not depicting violence against people we knew.
I remember one kid.
There would be stick guys that were just a generic stick guy, and something violent would happen to them.
Yeah, that's cool though. But because that's how most people start with stuff like that. And my friend Ryan, he actually had a thing where he drew like Goku from Dragon Ball Z, like just severely messed up. Like his arm was detached from his arm, like exposed ribs, like he had like hole in his stomach and chest and everything. And it's just like, Jesus, man. And he actually like, yeah, you hear the pupper down there sawing logs in front of us.
He's dreaming.
Yeah, he's having a dream. Maybe he'll wake up here in a minute. But he drew that, and eventually he was showing it off to people. But then, like, someone like threatened to, like, he's like, dude, I'm gonna tell the teacher about that. And instead, he made like a blanket out of Post-it notes to go over top of like the violent stuff. It was actually really funny.
Censored it, basically.
Yeah, it was really, really funny. But honestly,
so that was the other thing too. Is like when we would draw comics that had like really messed up stuff in them, we would put like draw our own black bars over stuff.
Yeah.
So like if we ever had like nudity in our comics, we would just put a black bar and like fill it in.
Yes, of course.
Rather than actually like have that stuff.
That's great. That's freaking great. So kids have very vivid imaginations that can get out of control really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we have There's a Man in the Woods.
There's a man in the woods. What a spectacle. Before the stories started, this school was still respectable. My students used to skip down the hill to the honeysuckle, pluck a couple, and collect their nectar till they picked their fill. Except one obnoxious kid, Sid, who just watched them eat the flowers while he seethed and scowled because he couldn't bear to share his sweet treats throughout our recess hour. I remember Sid saying, "There's a man in the woods." That's how the rumors began. Of course, Sid had spotted him first. The poor kids. He got him immersed in his spiel about a serial killer whose gun barrel glint hints at peril. A visit to the nurse, or worse, a hearse, waiting just beyond the dale. The children saw him everywhere. "Look, over there. That man had Batman ears. We swear. And crazy yellow eyes. We saw something rusty. His shotgun? It must be. I saw a lady's severed thigh." Trust me, every word I heard was absurd. Yet each day, Sid would stray down way past the playground. Who else was brave enough to save us from the killer's next plot? The rest of the lot would stop back at the blacktop, sure that any closer they were bound to be found deep in the woods, left to rot. I pleaded for the kids to think and learn to be mature, but after a few more rumors doomed my attempts to prove the school was secure, their fear was undeterred, and when the buses drove them all home, the parents finally heard. Everything just blew up. I received a wall of emails and calls full of shrieks, wails, and all from terrified families who'd heard word of the murderer and didn't like my lack of action at all. What was I supposed to do? Comb the whole forest? Yeah, right. Would you? That means I didn't care? That's not fair. The stories that worried you weren't true. Of course I would feel regret had there been a real threat and I ignored it, and some poor kid got kidnapped while the kids were napping. But you couldn't admit that your good little kid would formulate a fib, so you ignored what I said. Your little angels could never cook up such incredible creations. An overactive imagination
heads up,
made
7 out.
my kid could never lie. How dare I? Accuse a child of being dishonest? Just monstrous. The parents were displeased, and when the PTA took action, they dismissed me from the classroom. Like they knew what was best for their kids. Do you know how difficult it is to get a job when a bitter mom slanders your rep with child neglect from the outset? Now who's in control of your classes? Single file lines? Single file lines. Little vile swine, a killer by the pines. Really? Are you blind?
Now there is a man in the woods, and he's gonna get that little shit.
Decides to fill our minds with lies, and the next thing you see is people treating me like I'm committing crimes. I was in my prime. Those kids were lucky to have me. Do you see what you did? But I can play along. I can be good.
Seriously?
Do you hear that, Sid? There's a man in the woods.
Yeah, ruined by the freaking like pop-ups at the end there. What the hell?
There should be a way to turn those off.
There needs to be. I like annotations, but
I think annotations are a different thing.
Do you hear that, Sid? There's a
maybe
man
not.
in the woods.
no, it's a different video. So yeah, that's the that's the end right there. There's a man in the woods.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
like the way it was like a poem.
yeah,
Yeah.
the whole time it was a whole like all the way through.
It's like at the beginning, like I started to, I didn't really notice it at first, and then I started to notice that it was rhyming all over the place.
Look at him. He's having a crazy dream.
What you dreaming about?
I don't know. He's just like twitching and running all over the place. You just hear Asher in the background. Asher! Hey, buddy.
Just open his eyes, like, what the fuck?
You alright? You okay, buddy? You okay? You alright, Ashy? Having a nightmare?
What is it?
His eye looks bloodshot.
He's like, why did you wake me? It's like, you seem like you were having a bad dream. Just wanted to help you.
I was chasing a big juicy steak.
Probably. And I messed it up.
Yeah.
Drats. Oh, gosh. But yeah, there's a man in the woods. This is a lot older, like, 9 years ago. And as you can see, look there. Look who that is. Gosh. So yeah, it... the whole deal with, there being a man in the woods, kids' imaginations can get very wild and just go all over the place. I can't remember, like, 100% what it was about, but there was, like, a story, like, there was a big drainage pipe near this, near, like, our school, like, our middle school, and according to, like, some kids, like, I saw someone drag a body down there one time. It's like, did you see who did? He's like, no, I just saw someone dragging a body, and it looked like you. Like you'd have kids saying stuff like that. It's like, I'm just like, jeez, man. It's like thinking back on it, I'm like, wow, like these kids are just all over the place in terms of just like their imaginations, like some dark stuff. But also, yeah, I just... Sucks that the guy lost his job and everything, but I really hope instead, he was just like, do you hear that, Sid? There's a man in the woods. And instead he pulls out like a job application. He's like, can you give this to the principal of the school? I need my job back, please.
So the only childhood imagination thing I can think of that got like pretty in depth was me and my buddy Wade. Kind of were pretending, I guess, that we had seen dinosaurs that were still alive in his woods. And we both were like kind of so into it and not really acknowledging that we were pretending, that I think at a point we started to wonder whether or not we were actually being serious about stuff we were seeing. And it's like we had this whole like conspiracy thing. It's like, oh, dinosaurs actually didn't go extinct. They just got really, really good at like camouflage and being stealthy
And hiding, yeah.
So nobody knows they're still around, but they are.
Oh my gosh.
And that makes them super dangerous and stuff. And so we're like dinosaur hunters in the woods, I guess.
Oh man.
That's the only memory of like really making up some stuff I remember.
I remember there was one that was under our house on Rock Bar. Like we had this wood panel that didn't have like, it wasn't like a door or anything. It was just like a piece of wood that was stuck up against the brick where there was a hole in the wall. It was like to go under the house to like for like storage or whatever.
Crawl space.
Yeah, sort of. Except it was a lot bigger. You could actually store a lot of stuff under there. Mm-hmm. But I remember looking at that and just like we opened it up one time and we looked, and we saw a pair of red eyes in the distance. Like, we, like, looked under there, and we saw, like, these red eyes looking back at us. And then we closed it up real fast, and the boys made up a story like, that must have been a Wolverine, man. I'm like, this ain't, and you know, I'm older now, and I'm like, this ain't Canada. What the hell? And
It's like
now
you
that
hear
I'm
like the name Wolverine, but you never actually hear like where they're from, so you assume there's just Wolverines running around all over the East Tennessee or whatever.
Yeah.
Southwest Virginia.
yeah, and that was the thing with that. Later on, I opened it up again, and look, there's a cat.
Oh.
There's a little kitty cat that was that found its way under there. I think it was hunting mice.
Aw.
But I opened it up, and I just saw it like come to the edge and just look up at me, and it was like,
Oh.
I was just like, hey, buddy, what you doing under there? And just like he scurried off like to the other side of the crawl space, and I was just like, I guess he's
What a terrifying Wolverine.
absolutely horrifying Wolverine. God. So all
You
right,
could have named the cat Wolverine.
that would have been nice. But as that was like 20 plus years ago, that cat's probably not here anymore. But all right, everybody, I want to thank y'all very much for tuning in. This was a little bit of a recap on A Man in the Woods. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, and I guess until next time, we'll see you then. I'm Nate,
I'm Kate.
I am Nick.
and the sleepy boy down there is Asher. Y'all can't see him, but y'all can probably hear him during that. So until next time, we'll see you then. Peace.